Right, so hello, my name is Ollie, and as the title suggests, I'm going to talk to you about photobooks. And don't worry, the tea thing will become clear a bit later. Specifically, I want to talk about two journeys or developments of photobooks, which, although similar, happened half a century apart. The first is centered around Japan in the 60s and 70s, and the second has been happening to us over the last decade. The reason I want to talk about these two developments in particular is that I believe the prior has relevance to the latter, especially at a time when young photographers like ourselves need to be thinking about our practice differently if we want to sell our work and ourselves in a changing environment. Like with most things, Japan was fairly quick in developing photographic technology and practice after opening up to the West in 1868, and it soon evolved into a huge community of practitioners, publishers and theorists. Photographic clubs became numerous and popular, publishing magazines and monographs as early as 1874, and so photography and later the photo book flourished. The Japanese culture is a deep and complicated one, and their mentality towards much of life is what first fascinated me as a young boy, and is essential in understanding how the Japanese photo book became what it was in the 60s and 70s. So here comes the tea. Some of you may have heard of the Japanese tea ceremony. Some of you may have been lucky enough to see one, and some luckier still to be a part of one. It is a complicated ritual with beauty at the heart of it. As Kakuzo Okakura, author of the Book of Tea, said, tea is the religion of the art of life. Now, I'm a big tea drinker, and although for us it's both a social activity and something you can do on your own, the pleasure lies in the end result, drinking the tea. But for the Japanese, it is also in the process where the enjoyment lies. Every little detail of the ceremony is tailored to make it an experience. The quality of the bowls used, the way the tea is made, the way it is received and sipped, the interaction between maker and drinker. Everything is reasoned and created for the drinker to experience the tea in a beautiful and full way. This mentality is present in a lot of aspects of Japanese culture. Process is important in achieving the wanted outcome, and a lot of effort is put into it. So here it comes. Japanese photo books share this importance placed on process. Just as the ceremony is very much part of the tea, the photo book is very much the project. Kikuji Kawada's Chizu, or the map, published in 1965, for example, was put together by the photographer, designers and printers. And as Martin Parr and Jerry Badgers wrote in the Photo Book of History, no photo book has been more successful in combining graphic design with complex photographic narrative. The book is made up of photographs of stains, scraps, bottle caps, victims, movie posters, flags and more. And as the original was published 20 years to the day after the atomic bomb was detonated over Hiroshima, the gravity of these images begins to pull on you. Text used like the list of evoking words like pentagon, new type bomb, sword and whistle, which line the flaps of the interior wrap, add to this gravity and experience of the book, as well as text written by Kawada and the writer Kenzaburo Oe on themes of disorientation, war and culpability. The gravure printing technique used gives a certain harrowing quality to the image of stains from the atomic bomb dome in Hiroshima and scrap metal left by kamikaze corps. And the unpacking of the book with its slipcase folio that encases the book and the folds within it physically engage the reader to discover these images. The images are printed full bleed, covering the entirety of the page, allowing each to flow into the next, making them all a part of the same map. Everything is a collection of different aspects or resulting consequences of the war without pointing a finger at any particular thing, working together to deliver an experience linked more to a performance than flicking through a book. It's important to note at this point that Japanese photo books are not all the same. As Ivan Vartanian says in his book, there may be a misconception of the Japanese photo book as one type of photo book, homogeneous in theme and form. The variety of Japanese books is huge, and so having the nicest paper or the most ingenious design is not what I'm getting at. It's more about creating something to suit the project, something that Matt Johnston, founder of the Photo Book Club, agrees with.
I mean, the physical qualities of the book and the aesthetics of it and the design and paper stock and printing, all of that is really important. It isn't the be-all and end-all, and I think often there's if something is beautifully produced, that means it takes advantage of all the physical qualities. But there can be books that are produced on, and there's some great newspaper projects. Technically, the paper is not as nice as a really thick art stock paper. But actually, if it suits the project, I think that's the important thing. If it either mirrors the project or supports the project in any way, enhances the message that the artist is trying to convey, then I'm all for it.
Just as our mentality towards tea was different, so is the way we saw the photo book. Western development of the photobook saw it as a way of taking work from the wall and putting it into a more mobile medium. As Ivan Vartanian said, the Western photobook, generally speaking, is an assembly of reproductions. At some point, the photographer made a master set of prints, and the work of the publisher is to create something that approaches as closely as possible those prints. Although I'm sure a lot of decision-making went into the production of photobooks, it was not on the same level as what the Japanese were doing, at least not until the last decade. The book for us was a carrier for the work it held. It was a way to pass it around, a shell, a case. For the Japanese, the book was more than this. It embodied the work within it. It was a part of the project just as much as the photographs were, and it is in this mentality that I think we've moved closer to recently. The interesting thing is that we reached a similar place not only 50 years after the Japanese, but for entirely different reasons. As I mentioned earlier, the Japanese ritualistic tendencies are present in a lot of aspects of their culture, and it is from this that the mentality of the photobook was formed. It stems from tradition. Tradition for us, I believe, is the book as carrier, as a means to an end, which was the photobook until now. To quote Martin Parr, this has been a decade when people have rediscovered the book. The internet has changed many aspects of life for us, and in recent years the level of connectivity we have attained has given rise to tendencies and habits, as well as changing the way we make, receive and interact with media. Photography is no exception. Facebook alone has an estimated 250 million picture uploads a day, and Flickr, a site dedicated to photography, has reached a massive 6 billion uploads all time. The amount of images taken and shared today is huge and ever-growing, and is also regarded as a facilitating factor in the revived popularity of the physical artifact.
I think there's a sort of crave for the physical object, and I think more thought than ever before has gone into how these books are as physical objects and physical artifacts.
Nicholas Mertzhoff, a visual culture theorist, describes visual culture as being concerned with visual events in which information, meaning or pleasure is sought by the consumer in an interface with visual technology. By visual technology he means anything from an oil painting to the internet, so pretty much everything. He talks about our fascination with representations of reality created by these technologies, sometimes more so than reality itself. He states that as one mode of representing reality loses ground, another takes its place without the first disappearing. An online image is very different to a physical print, and people are now longing for that personal experience that a photobook can deliver. It seems, using Mertzhoff's idea, that the sheer amount of content on the internet, leading to a less physical experience, has meant people are now moving back to another representation of reality, the photobook. As Martin Parr said, the physicality of a book is an antidote to the digital age. Walter Benjamin, a German philosopher and social critic, wrote a short essay in 1936 in which he spoke about photography and film in relations to works of art and reproduction. A few of his ideas hold relevance now as we've gone through a similar change, this time into the age of digital reproduction. Benjamin said, "That which withers in the age of mechanical reproduction is the aura of the work of art. If we think of a painting as a one-off, it holds an aura, and by being able to mechanically reproduce that work of art, the aura can be lost. Any number of prints can be made from the same negative, and what Benjamin was getting at was that a copy does not hold the same value psychologically as an original. In theory, this makes sense. A copy of a Monet does not hold the same aura as an original, and you could argue this for the photo book, as usually many copies of the same book are made. But it's a little trickier to apply this to photography now. For me, it's seeing the work as it is intended to be seen which gives it aura. Benjamin linked the aura of an artwork to tradition. He talks about the first artworks being born from cult ritual, first in magic and then in religion. He also states that the technique of reproduction detaches the reproduced object from the domain of tradition. But I can see no artwork that is more embedded in tradition than that of the Japanese photo books, an observation I believe Benjamin would agree with. A copy of a painting cannot hold the same aura as an original, but a photo book is an original work by an artist being viewed as intended. As Ivan Vartanian would say, the photo book in Japan is not viewed as a series of reproductions. Each photo book, though is produced in lots of thousands, is itself an original. That level of photo book culture is what distinguishes how the photo book is understood in Japan versus the West. I said at the beginning that I talk about two journeys that ended up in similar places, and that's because we developed in our own way. I'm not saying we are or should be making books like the Japanese, but that we are and should be adopting the mentality that the book is more than just a way to show your work. It is your work. I'd like to end with a quote. The appeal of the photo book connects to a larger impulse to see the world differently from the way we are accustomed to seeing it, to escape the way we have conditioned ourselves to think, experience, and feel. I chose this for two reasons. Firstly, because I think it captures what I believe to be the essence of photo books, And secondly, because through this research I have altered my view of how I perceive photo books and how I will interact with them, whether making or reading in the future. And it is my hope that by sharing this talk with you, you will think about this also. Thanks.